as a rail trip along the Rio Grande. It was a rail trip to Albuquerque, and then I rented a car and went around about 3,000 miles through Texas, Louisiana, and back to New Mexico. Um, it all started at Sandy's on the beach. Somebody said they came back in a train, and it took them 36 hours, and I thought, I have to do that. It took me 5 or 6 years of thinking about it, and then I finally got the time to do it. And this is kind of the result. So this is kind of a cluster, and this is what a lot of the pictures are going to be clustered. So if you'd like to sit closer, I've set some chairs up. If your eyesight's good, great. But if you want to see better, I'd say move up. If you have read this, this basically says what I just said. I found out that going into Albuquerque, the Rio Grande went through there, and I said, now I have to follow it down to Texas. And I did, and then off to Louisiana because I wanted to see SpaceX, just because I've heard about it. That was Texas, and then, yes, did I touch something?
I need to unshare and reshare.
Okay. This is going to be filler talk. I travel the country by the coastlines. I've tried to see the East Coast, the West Coast, the Fresh Coast, and then the Gulf Coast. And this trip actually was extended into Louisiana over to where they make hot sauce, because that's as far as I had come the other way, up from Florida. So that's how this trip got started. So I had little endpoints that I wanted to do. And then I had to go see Waco because I watched too much House and Garden TV. I wanted to go see several other places. I've been surprised by a bunch of stuff I found along the way. We good? Okay. And I'll tell you all about it as I go through. A lot of this trip was done by asking people. Mary says, how do you find it? I found a windmill museum. I found a fair. I found that George Herbert Walker Bush's museum was close by. I went to Roswell because somebody said, that's only 2 hours away. So here we go. This is a nice overview. You go on the train, you can see the sunsets. You can sometimes see the train itself. The other two pictures are kind of just roadside kitsch. You get to see stuff. And there were a lot of times when I was just driving by, had to turn back around, see these things. This gives you some overview, train distance. And then I rented a van down there and then did another 2 weeks. Temperatures low were 41. The highs were 99. I found out that in Big Bend State Ranch, they have areas that they close because it's too hot. So I was the only one in my campsite at 99 degrees, but it was kind of cool. The wild horses walk through, and that's some of the costs for the train ticket. It's not cheap, but then again, it's what you get out of it. You can relax, and you're seeing the country. This, I'm going to kind of give you a lot of these pictures in these collages, because basically that's how I felt. I was going through by train. I was seeing a lot of stuff all the time. I, of course, take pictures of the Wi-Fi sign, the bathroom, the kitchen, the train station. Albion is in Michigan, but they had a sign that said, Chicago this way, New York that way. And I find a lot of it. Get to the big Chicago station, classic marble train station. This is my luggage. I traveled pretty heavy this trip. It's a 3-week trip, but I carried a Big Agnes sleeping pad, poles, extra footwear, a fan, because somebody said you got to have a fan if you go to Texas. So, and then I had a suitcase full of food because you can nosh all the way on a train. You can bring up basically anything you want. And I've seen people in the past, not this trip, but they're opening wine and having a good time. So it's civilized to say the least. These are all views from the train. I got good at holding my phone and just click, 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 click. And it's interesting. The observation car, I took that the first night. There's Amish everywhere by train. I didn't know that. I didn't talk to anybody, but I basically got into listened to conversations from them. It was a nice way to go, and it was kind of a entree into some other groups of people. Again, you're coming across the country, and I used my phone as we do to see when we're going to cross rivers, so I could stop and go, oh, we're going to be crossing soon, and it's going to be the Mississippi. I can take pictures, or hey, we're going to see this. A lot of the upper right is actually a pretty famous butte along the Santa Fe Trail. I didn't know it at the time, but I believe that's Covered Wagon Butte or something like that, Wagon Train Butte maybe. And that was a site that they could see from like almost 100 miles. And that's how they picked out the route. I oddly learned this trip that the Santa Fe Trail actually goes to Santa Fe. I never connected the two. So there was a lot of that going on in this trip. This is actually through the window of the train. It added some fuzziness, but I liked it anyways. And I left early in the morning. We went all day, and I got to see a sunset. This is now in Albuquerque. I had a friend in Albuquerque. He facilitated a very nice picking me up at the train station, dropping me off for a car. One thing traveling by train, I said, hey, I'm supposed to be in at this time. Call them up. Hey, I'm going to be an hour late. Oh, I'm going to be 2 hours late. I was 4 hours late coming in. Wouldn't be bad if there was a rental car and I could pick it up, but he lived 15 minutes from the train station, so it wasn't too bad. But he said, we were going to cook dinner for you, and I missed that. So we went up to the highest point in Albuquerque. They have a whole bunch of towers for the military that were there. And on the way back, he says, you want to stop at Tinkertown? I'm like, what's Tinkertown? Evidently, this is just a small, okay, I had probably 3,000 pictures. So this is a small spattering of all of my stuff. Guy was a carver, and he carved models of circuses. So he did that as a profession at one time, and it's just a hobby here. And little roadside that you could stop and see, like $3 or something, and I loved it. But we're still in Albuquerque. Went out to dinner at a restaurant that had a tree growing in it. I got to look at the canal system and stuff around. I'm a big infrastructure guy. I like to look at why a train might stop here, or why a port. This was a port. I went to visit New York, and I explored it like a port town, not like a big city. So that's another insight into how I travel. I have already picked up the car, the van. I highly recommend a Chrysler Stow and Go van. Super comfortable. It worked fantastic for the trip. It was actually cheaper than most vehicles because people don't like driving around in them, but I had room behind the seat for 5 jugs of water, all my camping gear. I laid out. Oh, I had a sleeping bag with me too. Forgot about that. And it turned out great. You can see one of the methods of being in the desert. I parked my car in the shade, so that was the only shade that was going down, but it made for a nice night.
So you slept in the van?
I slept in the van. What I did for sleeping, about a third of the time I was in the van, either in state parks or national parks, or I stopped at a RV park. The guy wasn't there. I just left $20 in the mailbox for him. We were just calling by phone. But the other time I did Motel 6. That was in a price range for me. And I only found one Motel 6 that was definitely like a low 2-star. Most of them were nice, very adequate. And then I became one of the people of Walmart. I slept in Walmart parking lots because the country is out there. There's so much space in between the towns. Every town has a little Walmart or a big Walmart. And somewhere along the line, I logged into their website. And the next time I rolled in, they said, "Welcome back, Mike. You're on our Wi-Fi." So I downloaded Disney movies and watched it with their Wi-Fi. So and I found out they had a quick grab and go section. After about the 5th time I was there, I went, "Oh, these are what I was looking for." So there's a big amount of convenience. And there's only one that I went to that somebody had told me afterwards, "You stayed there." So I didn't have any problem, but evidently it was the lowest rated Walmart in the country, and they possibly were going to close it. So one of the things I could not get over was how big and how much space there is between things in Texas. Somebody said 3 days to drive across Texas. Yeah. I'm going to go straight through. Yeah, 3 days to cross Texas. So my uncle and aunt go down to Deming in Texas, I think it's Texas. But they do rock mining. They look for geodes and gems and stuff like that. And Hatch is the other direction. Hatch chilies are what, like 90% of the chili is made in this country, and it's red or green, or you can order your stuff as Christmas, which means you have both. I happened to stop in at a place called the Pepper Pot. Anthony Bourdain was there. I did not sit in his corner, but I took a picture of it, and I had this wonderful meal. I can eat anything, and I'm glad for tasting different stuff. And I didn't run into anything that I did not like, and a hot mess of a meal was just perfect for me. This is another place. Mary said, we stayed at the bar over here until they were closed. I did that at this place. I was eating chips and I was saying, "Are you closed?" "Oh yeah, an hour ago." So I came in just before quitting time and they had no problem. This is actually part of a park. That's why there's so many cactus here. There was a rehabilitated waterway. Again, out in the agricultural area, they were trying to stop all the water and channel it away. This is one place they let to flood. So there were actually shorebirds and everything. But part of their little thing was a demonstration of all the cactus. This is the place that I saw the most cactus, was at this. It was probably a state park, but it was very cool. I believe we're in El Paso. Yes, El Paso. I found El Paso great. I kind of went down to the border because I had heard so many things pro, con, what's happening at the border. I said, I just have to see it because it can't be as bad as this. And somewhere along the line, the Democrats, I am one, so they were poo-pooing that maybe they were going to take this stretch of national or state parks that they had worked a long time for, and they were going to just bulldoze them and put a fence in. No, they're not. But I got a little freaked out, and I go, I got to go see it before they're gone. And El Paso was kind of the hit of the first hit of the border. I walked into a border crossing thinking it was a library. It was just this big building with glass, and people were walking out, and I thought it was books, you know, because people carry books out. And I walked in, and there was a guy with the gun and, you know, stuff. And he said, "Can I help you?" And I go, I thought this was the library. It's evidently not. And he goes, "No." I said, "I just wanted to look at the border." "Oh, there's a plaza over here and here and here." And had a great time. I said, "Thank you very much." Went over. This big cat is actually made out of trash. They have tires and bikes and stuff up there. But a lot of the towns are looking for something to draw people in. Even though El Paso is a border town, it reminds me of kind of some of the towns I've seen here where there's been a boom and they've built malls, and then there's not a, you know, there's a recession and there's some cheap stores in there, and it's But I didn't have any problem, and everybody was very cool that I talked to. This is the Hotel Gardner. Now, if I was to replan my trip, I would have said I'm going to stay at historic hotels as well as in my car and all these other places. Every town has an old hotel. Like Roswell is a classic 1940s downtown. I took a ton of pictures of the stores, but somewhere along the line, they revamped the Gardner Hotel. There's another hotel I'll show you later in Albuquerque or in Las Vegas. This is where Dillinger spent his last week on this earth. He was vacationing here or on the lam, I don't know which. If anybody's familiar with the Longmire series, the author basically spent his time writing in this hotel. And there was so few people there that I walked up and I went, "Oh, this place is cool." And the lady went, "You want to see what we're all about?" And I got a tour of the building. So that was, again, I like the old stuff. Okay, there's Dillinger, and there's the Longmire series. That's the actor, not the author. I didn't know that at the time, but now I do. A dynamic town. I like to see things building and growing. El Paso has got a lot of stuff going for it. It's a dynamic border town, and they're building and taking care of their buildings. I'd love to see that. The gas price. Evidently, they weren't as high as we were, and that also helped this trip. I didn't even take my gas into account. I was just going to go. I was going to do it. But it was a pleasant surprise that it was below $3 almost everywhere, almost 50 cents lower. That EP star, that's El Paso. I just thought it was cool. They've got public art everywhere, and every little town is trying to get you to come for some reason. Historic hotel, corn or cotton museum. Waco has a bunch of districts, and now it's got a Magnolia district, because that's now a draw, and that's from House and Garden TV. Great views. I mean, I did not stop driving while I took most of these pictures. So I'm just like, woo, this is great. This balloon over here, that is an actual border surveillance balloon that's on the ground. I rolling up, and it says U.S. government installation, do not come here. And I saw 3 or 4 more of those. They just put them up high, and they can surveil the ground. So that was part of the border patrol I didn't understand or didn't know about. There were also stops along the roadway. I didn't know where they were, but I'd roll up to them, and they'd just say, "Hey, where are you from? What are you doing?" And I'm traveling, doing this. And I only rolled up onto one that the guy had a porta-john and one of those pop-up tents. He must have done something really bad to have been stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Almost all the other ones were well set and well established. This is, I haven't shown you any pictures yet of the river, but the mountains on the other side of the greenery here, that's Mexico. I made a mistake of saying, this is America and that's Mexico. And he goes, that's America too. And it's like, okay, that's Mexico. This is the United States on this side. So we're all, we're all in the Americas. This is the beauty of the van. I had my fan plugged in the back, and it was a chargeable one, but just beautiful. This is the book that I started reading, Wheel of Time, and I was at the Big Bend State Ranch, and the neighbor just started trotting by, looked at me, said, hey, okay, kept going, and I was the only one in the campsite the entire day. I'll tell you about the police in just a second. Right on that smaller river, that is a boat launch, and that is the Rio Grande. And I just in that same park, I could have crossed the Rio Grande without getting my feet wet. I did not want to go to Mexico so bad until they said up to $5,000 fine for crossing the river. I'm like, oh my God, it's right there. So the police, they were very polite. Evidently, they have speed limits there that are 90 miles an hour in some areas. I don't do 90 miles an hour, but in a 40 in Michigan, you go 45, right? No. In Texas, you can go 5-10 miles below the limit, but don't go over it. The police officers were very polite. One person, they ask you about the rental car and stuff. And one, I had gone on a hike in the morning and had shorts on and, looked like I had hiking gear on. And he goes, you're not going hiking in this, are you? I go, no. So they were checking up on you too. They didn't want to make sure that they had to rescue you. Asked me if I had water. I said, yeah, I got 4 gallons in the back. Because he was going to direct me to where you can get water. So everybody was polite. But this guy pulled me over, and it was a nearly 100-degree day, and I felt sorry for him because he had to get out of his car, and he had all his gear and everything on, and I thought, you're just going to melt. So this trip also probably would not have been possible if I was stopping. A lot of times I would drive during the day, and I'd look at stuff in the morning, look at stuff in the evening, maybe a short stop midday somewhere, but most of the time I was in a car, air-conditioned. This is Big Bend State. This is Big Bend Federal Park, and they just had so much interesting fiction and real life books that I don't think I could have read them all. But there was a lot of Texas Ranger history, and I ran into a lot of it almost everywhere I went. This was the Big Bend National Park. I actually took pictures of a lot of these portraits or a lot of these posters, but the one that's got blue, and I love the saying, half the park is after dark. It is the darkest place in the United States for light pollution. I was there when it was a bright, full moon. So it was kind of screwed up for me. But less than a week later, I was still on the Gulf Coast in a fairly dark place. But if you were to want to go to see a dark sky, I never knew that was the darkest place in the United States, and it is. The Rio Grande cuts through 3 kind of mountain ranges. So there's 3 sets of cliffs along it. You'll see one later up near Taos. This one's in Big Bend National Park. You'll see some pictures of it. And I don't know where the third one is. So even though the river is a plodding little river, sometimes muddy, sometimes you could step across it, it has cut these giant gorges. This is Big Bend National Park. The river's behind me, and that giant rock face is Mexico. This is an area I could have easily gone across the river. And again, Mexico on the other side of the river, and it was placid. It was one of the, probably 80-degree days, and I was just in the shade going, I love you, I love you. It's, you'll see another thing in here. There's a lot of places that if there's a spring, if there's a water hole, or if there's something, almost all of these towns started out for some reason there. A trail, like in this area, there were a lot of Spanish caminos, were Spanish paths up into New Mexico, out of Mexico and through Texas, or as the time was, it was Mexico and Mexico. But all of those paths, all those trails would go through like the watering holes. Just another great picture. You couldn't help but not have great pictures. Here's a nice thing. I did not expect, America has such a young history. I think of the Old West. It's not really all that long ago. Some of the original buildings. This is an original building of Judge Roy Bean. I saw a sign, I'm driving by, and it says Langtree. And one thing I know about Judge Roy Bean is he loved the singer Lily Langtree. And I went, I wonder, pull off the road, go and see a visitor center. They've got stuff from his history, cards he played with, guns he shot, all sorts of history. And just accessible, super accessible. Like Mary says, I don't know how he finds it, but you just go by. I'm not sure what town this is, but this is a night that I was staying at a Motel 6, and I was like, where's there a good place to eat? They go, oh, there's a Chinese place over here. There's a something over here. And I'm like, I wanted to hear them say something about this Rudy's. They didn't. So I went there anyways. Had a live band, had a ton of food. I don't know if I had a food, but people have seen me eat. It looks like it could have fed 4, but it fed 1 of me. This is another town. I took a picture of this just basically because of the river and the spring. I walked through this whole area. I got up one morning early, drove over to it, and spent 2 hours walking along the river because everything is desert. Over here is the river. There were birds, all sorts of cultural sensitive stuff, that history of the area. This is another view along the river. They actually had it set up so kind of like a public square, but you could go swim and bathe in it and cool down. But there were birds and stuff there that I had never seen. And in the stair picture, there's actually little fish swimming in there. So it's amazing what water will do to bring life into the area. This is that same area. It's got tons of bridges in it, both industrial, the railroad, personal, and then for part of the public works. I like to eat. You may have noticed that. You may have heard me say that. I went in and I'm like, I haven't eaten yet this morning and it's already 10 o'clock. Had grits, had a taco, had pancakes, had eggs, had sausage, had coffee. I was set for the day. So life is good. This is the only picture of the border wall that I've got, which is a border fence. One of the signs near here said something like unexpected pedestrians, be careful. It was, and it showed somebody carrying or hauling a child along, and it's like, yeah, I could see why you could want to be careful. But this is just outside of Eagle Pass. Eagle Pass was in the news quite a bit. There's a sheriff there that says, hey, we don't want you coming here. Basically, what they've done is they've built the border wall on the other side of their golf course. And the golf course is still on the American soil, but they didn't want to have a disruption of the views of the golf course across the Rio Grande. And it's an extremely easy place to cross the river and then be on American soil. So that is counterpointed to less than 3 miles out of town, the fence ends in a pecan grove. And there were several gates that were open that evidently were set for processing people when they get through. They had facilities set up for people to be processed. So within, probably it was every mile that there was an opening in the fence. So yeah, there's people coming here, but they're also dealing with it. And I didn't see any bad hombres, as it were. This is the old San Antonio Road. This was a hotel that was built. It's got a long history. It was basically built on the back corner of somebody's, 500,000 acre ranch. But it was also part of the Spanish Caminos, the trail coming up. So again, history and everything comes through. And unfortunately, this hotel was burnt out. They had a fire, but I would have stayed there. I don't know the town. I was going to say it was St. Augustine, but that's the wrong state. San Antonio. It's San Antonio, I think. Wait, I can tell you it's here somewhere. Laredo. It's Laredo. And I found in Laredo that there was a country, short-lived country, the Republic of the Rio Grande. Basically, the federal government, Mexican federal government, wasn't paying them enough attention, and they were complaining, and they weren't getting the stuff that they needed from the federal government, so they decided to make their own government. And then the federal government finally got interested. So they sent all the troops up and kind of gave them a problem. The U.S. border, there's a small little map there, and that was part of the discussion on how the America got, was there going to be a Republic of the Rio Grande in there? How much did Mexican federals want? And this was just a small little, like 5-room museum, but you got so much out of it. Again, along the Rio Grande. This was me. I walked across the road to look at the river. It's probably one of the largest pedestrian crossings I had seen anywhere. I mean, and I'm talking, there's Friendship Bridge up in Canada and a few other places that I've been. They've got a nice kind of almost Art Deco-y bridge going across, and it was just a constant flow of people back and forth. I took this particular picture, the Canadian flag, the 2 American flags, and then the Mexican flag. Just behind that is the walkway bridge. But I never thought about Canada as being a border town or something, and it felt weird to me that a Canadian flag would be down in Laredo. Again, some of the most beautiful clouds. This particular roadway is called the Palm Highway. Somewhere along the line, they decided they would plant like 10,000 palm trees along the highway. Some of them have been knocked out with hurricanes and stuff, but generally, if you wanted to look up in Texas, there's Palm Highway, there's the Mountain Highway, there's the Rio River, something highway. So it's kind of fun when you realize that they've worked real hard on it. So in the background, the three towers, this is almost to the Gulf of Mexico. That is SpaceX, and that's their buildings, and then there's two towers. But I had this in here because this is as flat as it is. I mean, and the ocean is the horizon there. And when I went through there, water was over the road, had signs permanently there, water over road. And I think that's just the tide. So I worry that, you know, they're going to just have a hurricane and just wash it all away. But they're really building. So I got to drive by SpaceX, actually through their complex. It was cool to see because I've been to Cape Canaveral and I've been to some other space areas, Johnson Space Center, and you don't get this close. You know, here are some other views. They had people lined up on the side of the road watching what was going on. The middle picture is the caught rocket. It came down vertically and got caught by this from outer space. It is some amazing stuff. This far thing is a test of the original kind of concept for the Dragon. So it's come a long way, baby, as they say. And again, I just drove off the end of through SpaceX and to the beach. Again, Border Patrol was driving down the beach. I could have driven on the beach as far as I wanted to, but I'm from Michigan. I just parked my car away from the water and went for a walk. Very cool, though. I had finally made it to the Gulf. This is just up the coast a little bit. Along the coast, I have never seen so much hardening of infrastructure. Just a few miles from where SpaceX was, they were doing the largest port I have ever seen, and a largest construction site. If you wanted to call it a mega build, it probably qualifies. So some people are evidently really worried about hurricanes. This is an old lighthouse. I thought it very picturesque, but what I thought was even more interesting was they harvested all of their rainwater because there was nothing but salt water there. They had no fresh reservoir. So these water barrels were a little worse for the wear because of the salt water, but everything was copper fittings and copper and wood. And I found that extremely interesting. It's now a public information center. I believe this is coming into Galveston, maybe. I'm used to ships being from the Great Lakes. I have never seen so many tugboats guiding ships in. And then the big sky was great. The aircraft carrier on the lower right is parked there. I don't know if it's a permanent installation, but I think it is. But they're building a bridge very similar to the Gordie Howe Bridge. And I watched boats there for probably 30 or 40 minutes, and then it was too hot. I went to a museum. This is a museum very close to it. It was a children's museum oh, sorry, I don't know if I said right. It was Corpus Christi. But again, you got presidents and all sorts of people going there. The little Y, I had to take a picture of it because that was just the Yellowstone brand, and I had been watching that lately. So had a lot of history of the area. The center top is Whataburger. They're still around. I ate like crazy at Whataburger. It was good. I had seen these pink bales driving all over Texas. Have no idea what is pink, what it is. It's white. What is it? I did not realize that the industrial cotton industry is huge still in Texas. I think they've figured out how to grow a standardized plant and can have a machine picking it. But I didn't realize I was going by fields and fields and fields of it until I got to this cotton gin. It's still a community cotton gin, and I found several while I was on the road. There's my Motel 6. This was the fanciest one. I love the tiles and stuff. I thought, oh, this is hipsterville. But that was right walking distance to the beach. I walked out, looked at the beach, the marsh. A lot of these places have these old lighthouses. This was actually moved back from the shore, but it had historic plaques out front. So you could, history everywhere. This part of the boardwalk, I was driving all day. These kind of cool at night adventures. I don't know if you can see them, but you got some little crabs there. I was like leaning over going, look at these crabs. And it was just a nice way to wind down from a day of driving. Boardwalk sign that I like to have information from. But, you could tell that this place has been around a while. This is a very old style picnic shelter. And I just love the angles that it had. Reminded me of, just I'm nostalgic for times I never knew. So I stopped in at Whataburger. Yes, those are 2 huge fries, 2 sandwiches, a coffee, but they have spicy ketchup. And if you didn't like hot sauce on anything, that was like integrated into it. It was fantastic. So I had my Whataburger and a Whata sandwich or something. What's that? Oh, that was me. That was all me. I didn't realize that the fries were going to come with both sandwiches, but I ate them anyways. So, this is Galveston, I'm pretty sure. Is Galveston an island?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm pretty sure this is Galveston. They had a great railway museum. It was one of the old railway buildings that they turned into a train station or into a museum. Had a railroad car or a post office car. They had dining cars, dining prep cars, cook cars. They had a flat car there that this was a car that was transporting the marble for the tomb of the unknown soldier. It was bent because of the weight on it, but evidently the railway company keeps track of every car much more than I keep track of my stuff at home, because they had all the history on where it went, how long it sat, and almost all these places that I went had all the documentation. But they actually had to straighten this car because it was bent because of the stone. Again, if I could have a stainless steel kitchen, I would, but okay, so you know what I like. If I didn't know for sure it was Galveston, the bookstore was painted with books, and it's the Galveston bookstore. And it was a weird town. Parts of it were hurricane hardened and parts of them weren't. Part of it is because I wanted to see the building. It was cool, but part of it is the alleys have their power poles going through the alleys, and they're on 2 poles and then stretched across. They go through the middle at 2 heights, and that's to protect them from hurricanes. They also have steel and concrete poles too in the area. So looking at the infrastructure, just kind of what I do. I am exiting Texas. I am going to Louisiana. You come up over a rise and there's nothing. It's mud flats and wet, and that's the way I think it should be. But then again, the petroleum company really likes it too, because it gives them access to seaport, and stuff like that. So there's really a juxtaposition between the wonderful marshes and stuff. And I stopped off at several places that had, interpretive centers of the wildlife, but I didn't see any interpretive center of the, refinery. I would have gone to that too, just because I'm a weenie. That's the ocean. The road was right along the ocean. I accidentally took a picture of me and then I looked at it and I said, that is the best light. I am such a good looking guy. I had to take another picture and pose. It was the good sunset. And I thought I got to Holly Beach, and this is where I parked my car on the cement and paid $20. I thought to myself, why is this place still here? Everything's built on stilts. The school was on stilts. They were actually parking the bus underneath the school. The churches were on stilts. Everybody was on stilts. And you could tell where the older stilt communities were. They were much lower stilts. And the newer ones were much higher stilts, probably replacing the old one that got wiped out. So I found it a very interesting place. Again, super wide beaches. They had some guys on quad runners running around. I took pictures of them, but they irritated the hell out of me. So I'm just going to let you know, there are loud people everywhere. As soon as it went dark though, everybody went inside and I'm like, I love this place. And this is where I had the best star viewing because the sun had not come up yet and I was just at dusk. So it was great looking over the ocean. Found a place that did historical stuff, kind of like Greenfield Village, but it was all the people who had been there in the area, and they tended to be Creole or mixed race. And they had a great collection of houses and great interpreters to talk to. And it was just a nice place to go. They had all their T-shirts, and I thought, that you had a pelican, you had a crawdad, you had a swamp live oak, gumbo, and a boll weevil. I was like, woo, I got it all. It's the trifecta. How much time do I have? Am I doing okay? Okay, because we're almost at the bend. We're almost going to cut across Texas. So I what? Yeah, I know, but we're almost on the way because this was really close to I think it's Tenpenny Island or something like that, where they make Tabasco. And I drove around the island. It sounds weird. It's called the Salt Dome Island, but you can drive around it. And then I headed across Texas. So that finished out my Gulf Coast route. So I'm now out of Louisiana, back to Texas. This is the George Herbert Walker Bush Presidential Museum at some university. This is also the university.
What about Tabasco?
It's good. I didn't go there because I'd already been there.
Oh, I thought you were going to have
No. You know what? If you're ever down there, it's great. It was a private landowner. There were essentially slaves and not slaves and free men on the island because that was the only real buildable area. And the guy basically said, to my descendants, you have to live here and you can have land. So it's a really closed community. Evidently, I think everybody's related to everybody else. But they still have a Tabasco factory because that's where it was started. But they make most of the stuff out of the country. You've heard of Baton Rouge, the little red stick. They have also a little red stick there for the ripeness of the Tabasco. And because it was a salt dome island, what they would do is they would put the barrels out and then they would have holes in the top of the barrel and cover it with the salt. And that could bubble through when it degassed and fermented. So now you know how to make Tabasco sauce. And that was part of their production, was the salt from the salt dome. So does that? Okay, excellent. I have pictures from another trip if you'd like. So Under the horses are parts of the Berlin Wall, because the Berlin Wall fell under Herbert Walker Bush. And it was just I drove up in the morning. Again, I had parked somewhere and looked what's near here. Oh, there's a presidential museum. So that's how I got there. He was also into trains. So he did a bunch of campaigning by train. He also was buried off of a train. His last bit through Texas was on his funeral train. So they have that there. They have a presidential helicopter there, a presidential limousine there. And one of the things about this is they said that they wanted it to be like an invitation into their home and into their life. And honestly, I went through with that in mind, and I went, I like these people. These guys, I like them, you know. Even though I might not necessarily politically agree with them, I would have hung out with them. You know, if I had the money. I don't really have enough money to hang out with them, I guess. But presidential helicopter, I found that fascinating. And parts of it, like this is part of the university that's absolutely free. So you could come by and go, hey, I just want to look at the helicopter and stuff. Or you can pay an extra $10 or something and go into the museum, which was well worth it. These are just a few of the things that they had through there. Some of these were life-size, some of them were smaller. You know, wedding photos, like you'd walk into your mom's house and see their wedding photo up on the wall, you know. And just, it was very approachable. You'll see the president with Governor Schwarzenegger tobogganing. This was a Camp David display they had. And Barbara Bush is sitting here with Princess Diana. They were trading books. They had both written books, so they traded books. And there was a whole bunch of stuff. Evidently, if you're president and you're gifted stuff by other countries, you can't keep that. It's part of your presidential record. So they actually had rooms of presidential gifts displayed, which I found interesting because it puts you in a specific time period. Of course, war in the Middle East. I was ever since I was a kid, I read a story about Red Adair, and he was a pretty famous oil well fire extinguisher. I think he started the process of using explosives to stop an oil well fire. So you would basically blow up and take all the oxygen out of the air, and then it would go out, and they could cap it. But this is a picture of President Bush. Basically, it was, I don't remember what they called it. It was Camp David diplomacy or shuttle diplomacy. And he was evidently constantly moving, trying to get peace talks and stuff. I did not realize that he was a CIA person. I did not realize a lot of things about him. You know, spent time in I believe China, all sorts of stuff. So kind of a pivotal guy on a lot of ways that I never would have thought of. How many people know of Lyle Lovett? Okay, there's a song of his. He talks about getting a greasy plate of enchiladas down at the old La Salle, and the Palace Walk-In was a movie theater that hadn't seen the days of G or R or X, and they haven't had a movie since Giant came to town. So I'm walking through, oh, the La Salle Hotel. That's funny. That's the Palace. Oh, I was walking in a Lyle Lovett song. I found out, I looked him up on my phone. That's where he shot the video too. Geeked out, kind of crazy, but the town looks so much better than when he did the video. You know, you look at it and it's like, ooh. But it was really kind of cool. Again, this was the college town that was kind of adjacent to the big university. This was kind of, the Ypsilanti to the Ann Arbor. Again, I had the large meal. And I found stuff like, I didn't realize that hats are important. I know that cowboys have hats, but I couldn't even think about buying one of these hats. I found a shade hat in some garden center a while, after this, but I looked at it and they would have sized me and made it to my head and gave me whatever look I wanted. But these are all blanks. These are not finished hats. Well, some of them are finished hats, but a lot of them are blanks on the bottom and the rear. Again, I'm into kind of retro look, and I'd like my kitchen to look like this, but not quite yet. Waco, luckily it's not overshadowed by the bad stuff that's happened there. They've got Baylor University. They've got the river area. They've got a government, city government. I don't know if it's county government or it's a big government area. They've got a business district. And then they have Magnolia. Magnolia was an old cotton gin area that a couple from the area bought and renovated, but they were a big thing on House and Garden TV. And I went to see the hotel they did. I ate at a restaurant they redid, a bunch of stuff. Texas Ranger Hall of Fame. I did not get to go there, but I walked the grounds, read a bunch of plaques. They were old military men that went out, and it's like, you need a job? Yep. They were fairly unstructured for a long part of their history. And then people realized how tough they needed to be. 10 minutes? Great. I'm going across Texas. Baylor University. This bridge typifies something that happens later on. This is a bridge made for transporting cows. This is Chisholm Trail. There's big money in cows. So that's one of the reasons they built it. And that's a big reason why the town is there, is all the cattle. Again, I'm going to go through, this is the House and Garden. This is the hotel that they redid, Chip and Joanna Gaines. So I like renovated hotels. This is the third one that I was at on this trip. This is the area called the Silos. It was originally a baseball field, so they put a 1/3 or 2/3 size ball field there, and they leave baseball bats and wiffle balls so you can play baseball. Just a super nice way, very approachable. You'll see the little dish of cactus. They're only about 3 inches tall, but they're $16 each. And I went, no, I don't have to buy them. I almost bought them, but they were ceramic, so that was kind of cool. So I went to the Magnolia table. I had another breakfast. I think that might have been the second of the day. Wonderful waitress. There's a place called Homestead Heritage. There's a guy who was also on House and Garden, very close to Waco. They take Mohawk Valley barns from New York, and they brought them here, and they built this whole area with the old barns. They renovated them, made them into homes, made them into business areas, and that's their whole business model, is saving barns and then, well, of course, upselling them to other people. That's just, that's just a little restaurant, and I could spend all day there, but I didn't. Something I found while I'm looking at my phone, what else is cool around here? They made statues from storybooks. So these are Evan and his dog, and they made a statue. There's a story about a bear and a little girl. My favorite, Stuart Little, when I read it. So they had a Stuart Little. And this is just me looking at stuff. Moose and a tiger so that was fun. Sometimes your GPS says you can go through, but the trains say you can't. So that's why I had this. I had to find another way around this. It was parked there, not going anywhere. So, and I found it very interesting that an oil company, there's a lot of wind power. A lot of times the wind power is used for pumping. Sometimes the oil wells pressure is used for pumping. Sometimes, so there's a lot that goes into it. Windmill Museum, I'm going to kind of go through these because it's, you get the idea. One of the things that I learned with this is that's a 20-foot windmill next to a standard size. Is one of the reasons that the windmill was so important is the steam trains needed water, and the windmills were the only ones that could pump them out of the aquifers. So as they expanded west with the railroad, the technology of windmills also went with them. I was at Greenfield Village or Henry Ford Museum. They also have a Zenith generator. Yeah, they had everything kind of windmilly, wind power. This is a windmiller's wagon, all original. It looks like a Rough Life. Famous Black Horseman, cowman. I didn't know about it, but they had windmills in the South Pacific doing laundry. This is a nice double mill. The story there was a town put it up, and they basically ran their aquifer dry because it could pump so much. They didn't realize how little they had it. From there, I went and had fun. Had a corn dog. And now we're in Roswell. You get the idea. A little bit crazy, a little bit unique. These are all pictures of crop circles. I just like the patterns. And they had artwork there. Not that it was for sale, but it was fun. Bigfoot hanging out with an Indian, hanging out with an alien or two. Just being cool. This is not my picture, but I thought it was cute, so I went and found it online. It's the Roswell Transit Station, and I thought that's the place to go. Diner, again, I couldn't help myself. This is the Blue Hole. This is on old Route 66. It's just a water-filled hole, and people have been stopping by it forever and ever and ever. So they let people swim in it now. Las Vegas, New Mexico, my favorite town. I'm going to just kind of go through this so you can look at it. This is me walking through the town. My favorite town, it has a railway in it. It has part of the cow trail. Oh, look, a little dog up in the window. Way up there, I found her. And it was a Camino, so an old Spanish trail. Now they have a college. And
An old town and the gambling area? This is the
no, oh, right. This is Las Vegas, New Mexico. And it's got a railroad district. It's got all this very big history, but it also has a Fred Harvey house, which was a hospitality house that, and this is the not the El Cid, the El Fidel. And again, another old hotel, great to look at. This town had so much money, they had the second electric rail car in the country. It had money due to the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe all coming together, along with the rail or the cow trails. These are just pictures of the Harvey House and some of the history. This is an all steel front building. It's just unique. If you go down in one of the cemeteries in Detroit, they have monuments made like this too. Again, I ate. It was great. Found this place by mistake. This lady told me I could go see the old house across the river, so I had pictures of the old house back then and the old house now. It's all Pueblo. So some of the walls were falling down. Some of them were solid. Once the rain gets at the Pueblo, or the Pueblo is not the right word, but adobe. Thank you. Pueblos are made out of adobe. So, yeah, they're cultural groups. You're right. Up in the mountains, it was kind of cool. We went through. They had the lady I talked to talked about that historic area. They thought that they might have be in trouble because of the fire, but it didn't get to them. But there's evidence of it around there. I'm now in Taos, New Mexico. I can't afford anything there. There were paintings more expensive than my house there. But one of the things that I did love is I could take pictures of the paintings. I also like the aesthetic of the galleries. Very little furniture, stuff hung on the walls. I think I might try to do that at my house eventually. You know, just trying to get rid of stuff. I love the aesthetic. Again, history is not that far away. Kit Carson's home. Actually, it's Kit Carson's courtyard, but you know, that's what it is. Outside of Taos, this is a gorge cut by the Rio Grande. You just drive by and all of a sudden the earth drops out from underneath you. And way down below in there were these, just hopping around, bighorn sheep, and I sat and watched them. Unfortunately, on the bridge are also suicide phones at every stop. They've had a big problem with that, and they try to get away from that. Earthship, I'm a big fan of them. It's basically using old techniques to live cool in a hot climate. And they're kind of cool architecture. Did you? We have to talk. And then I went to the capital of Texas. Can't remember what it is. Is it Austin? Austin. And they've got money there too. So I went through and looked at the art, took lots of pictures, enjoyed myself walking in the cool of the morning. The state capitol is round. It's called the Roundhouse, kind of like a train roundhouse, but it's all art. You can walk through. It's like their public museum. And I thought that this was interesting. This is a garbage bison, and you can see his eye is a plastic spoon. So this is the miraculous stairway that supposedly St. Joseph made. When he made it, or whoever made it, they never had the handrails on, and the ladies who went to sing in the choir, there was no handrails, and they were like, it was a leap of faith or a climb of faith, they said. So again, went to see George O'Keeffe. There's a museum. There she is, looking like she's flirting with Ansel Adams, but you know. Again, just pictures around the museums. How far do I go? I'm close. I'm close. Look at that. This was just before Halloween, or just before October. This is my friend Ken, and instead of going out and driving and looking at other stuff, he said, "Hey, you want to help me build the skeleton?" And we did. So that was a fun little thing to rest at. And these are all from the train. So just imagine, if you will, the train is going by all the landscapes. Oh, and here's the ladies I ate with. And her husband was a famous hot rod builder. And I went and found he made the famous Pacer truck. So I found it on the internet, very first picture. It was great. Had some salmon. Coming into Chicago. I was wondering what all these little castles were. There were probably 10 of them. They're all water towers, but they were all built of brick during a certain time period. And they're just kind of cool to look at. Coming into Chicago, oh, the rail yards. That's it. Any questions for the
Hey, Mike,
5 minutes?
yeah, when
Or-
were you, what time, when were you there? When did you leave and when did you get back? And while you were in Taos, New Mexico, did you see Gene Hackman walking around?
I did.